Young, yeah, got a chance to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. This is a game that, well, let's just say there's been a little bit of controversy about it. He played 4 hours,
So
and he
there's a
has some
lot
concerns.
riding on Assassin's Creed Shadows right now.
Yeah,
If you've been
like
keeping
the
up with
entire company.
Ubisoft, you know that the company is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
A bunch of their projects got delayed. We've got situations like the layoffs and the studio shutdowns, their major releases not meeting sales expectations. They are
Yes.
hoping that Assassin's Creed Shadows will kind of bring them back
This
from
needs to be a blowout.
the rut. So I was very curious to play the title. I was able to get 4 hours.
Do you want to hear another game that got delayed because of the quality and they had to take extra time to make sure that it was good before it was released? Suicide Squad killed the Justice League.
Hands-on with it, and in this video I'll be sharing my thoughts.
Yeah.
I do think that this game is gonna sell relatively well.
4 to 6 million.
Usually tends
That's my
to sell
bet.
well, and with the Japan setting, this is definitely a game that's gaining a lot of traction. Now, whether I think this game will be the one that pushes Assassin's Creed to the next level, that will break away from Ubisoft's
I'm just looking at the stairs.
stale
Yeah, stairs are pretty
as
good.
far as their game design is concerned, that I'm not quite sure of.
Yeah.
Within my 4 hours hands-on time, I will say that I'm not fully convinced that this is gonna win over those who have felt that Assassin's Creed has gone kind of stale. It's gonna come down to whether there is still that sense of an overabundance of content that feels insubstantial, that doesn't feel handcrafted. A lot of that copy and pasted stuff
Yeah.
that Ubisoft open world games tend to have. As far
Well,
as
that's a problem that a lot of games have now, is they introduce too much scope into the game, and they don't give you a very... Like, it's better to give somebody a narrow slice of a really good type of content, rather than trying to get them to accept, you know, some, like, everything game, basically.
the story and
Opening
narrative
chests,
are concerned,
filling
nothing
up a
shown
bar.
in this demo really grabbed me.
Yeah.
In some part to do with just how stiff some of the animations look during cutscenes, and the presentation is just, when I look at what, say, like Ghost of Tsushima did,
Yeah.
in comparison, this just feels like a bit of a step down, but maybe the narrative will hook me as the rest of the game goes along. But so far,
Let's get this straight. So you don't like the way the characters look, you don't like the graphics, you think the combat's probably mediocre, the game's mired in controversy, but somehow the storyline is going to be what's good. Uh-huh. I've seen less cope from QAnon posts.
I just didn't have that narrative hook, which for me is an important part of any campaign-driven single-player experience.
be
And
honest.
there's just a bit of awkwardness to some of the dialogue and the writing
sucks.
that don't lend themselves to natural-feeling conversations, that don't allow me to feel fully immersed.
People that make games that focus on superficial, meaningless things like representation or whatever, these are not people who care about crafting a good story, and they don't care about crafting an experience that's meaningful. They don't care about telling a good story, they care about telling their story. So everything that these people are going to make is going to be garbage. That's it. It's going to be garbage. Like, I can almost guarantee you the story will probably be one of the worst parts of this game.
And everything that's going on. And based on what this gameplay session presented, I'll be honest with you, neither of the protagonists are particularly interesting. They don't have any, like, personality quirks that stand out. They don't have any, like, awesome chemistry that make their interactions compelling. Nothing in these initial hours showed anything interesting that drew me to these characters. Hopefully that will change over time. I will say
It's just crazy to me that, like, I could have done that Cyberpunk with Jackie at the beginning. I still remember that. That shit went well. Like, it's just like, this is like comparing the Olympics to some fat dude laying on a bed. I mean, you're not even going anywhere. It's embarrassing.
In terms of gameplay, Yasuke and Naoe do feel quite different. Yasuke definitely feels like that bulldozer, the hammer, if you will, who will trounce through enemies and combat scenarios. Naoe is definitely more about agility, about being stealthy. If Yasuke is the hammer, then Naoe would be the scalpel. She can still hold her own in combat. You'll just have an easier time with Yasuke. who has those powerhouse moves and active skills to be able to trounce enemies. And not to mention that with Yasuke, for example,
This looks like, I mean,
doing parkour is just a lot more awkward because of how slow and chonky he is, whereas now it just kind of breezes through obstacles and environments, and she just has all the right tools for stealth. And so it's a matter of what kind of approach you want to take with every mission, with every scenario, whether you want to just like literally bust through the front doors, which Yasuke can do, or whether you want to kind of take it through the roofs or through the shadows.
I'm the
And I'd say
Juggernaut,
moment-to-moment
bitch!
gameplay of the two characters, aside from feeling distinct, feels relatively good. I'd say Yasuke's combat, while I still need to play more of it, there is
how can you look at this and say that it's good?
like a nice sense of impact with every.
I feel like this is horrible. Like, I play video games for their combat. Like we were playing Ninja Gaiden the other day, right? Like, it's not even remotely close. And before you go and you say, oh, but this is more realistic, this isn't realistic. Look at this.
While I still need to play more of it, there is like a nice
That's not
sense.
realistic. What are we talking about? This is ridiculous. It's just garbage. Like, what is this?
Of impact with every strike. I do think that some of the enemy combat move designs just a little weird, where it feels like you're attacking them and then you don't see them get stunned by some of your stronger attacks, then they're automatically able to dish out attacks that will stop your momentum. And so there is an element.
They probably have a posture bar that's built in, and then after the posture bar gets broken, there's an internal paralyzed period where they're available to be hit. And then after that posture bar goes away and after that period ends, then they're able to resume their normal attacks and they're unable to be staggered again. Because that's the way that a lot of games work. Like, yeah, that's the reason why. Very clever developing. Yeah, no one's ever done that before.
Of that kind of disrupted the flow. Combat can feel good when it's flowing well, but then there are other times where just that bit of jankiness comes in, where it feels like it's just not the most refined combat system.
I'm going to do a donation drive tomorrow for $17 so we can buy Ubisoft after this game comes out. And so it's $17, so that way I can use the extra $7 left over to buy one item at McDonald's.
And as far as the stealth and parkour goes, you've got the parkour up and parkour down buttons that you can hold so you can have more finesse in the parkour. I do like that now it has that grappling hook now, which makes it so much easier to get to rooftops. Vertical traversal feels just a lot better because of now his new tools and capabilities, especially with that grappling hook, which not only allows you to ascend to greater heights easily, but allows you to like swing through trees and whatnot. The stealth system now has the ability for you to go prone, which is a nice addition, allows for just a bit more flexibility. So there are definitely some mechanical elements that I did enjoy from moment to moment, though I do still hate scenarios where one of the larger type enemies, like the brute archetypes, when you go for an assassination, if they're higher level than you, then a blade through the throat or through the face or through the head won't end up killing them. It'll deplete, a significant portion of their life bar, but not take them down. It just makes assassination feel a little more secondary, less satisfactory. I've never liked the introduction of that kind of scaling for the assassination part of the game. And the fact that
it's a minor complaint, but I can see what he's I like. It's an immersion thing. Yeah, like I can kind of see that. I can see not doing that. Like I could see either one.
that makes a return is just a little bit annoying.
It's just
in terms of the overall game
it's
design.
an opinion.
That's where I'm still quite unsure as to whether this is gonna fall prey.
Wait, did this is all one clip? So let me get this straight. So she
A
jumps
significant
down,
portion of their life
she
bar,
assassinates
but not
him,
take them down. It just makes assassination feel
and
a
then
little more secondary, less
she just walks
satisfactory.
away.
I've never liked the introduction of that kind of scaling for the assassination
and she goes behind a wall.
part of the game. And the fact that that makes a return is just a little bit annoying. In terms of the overall game design, that's where I'm still quite unsure as to whether this is going to fall prey to the same old Ubisoft open world formula. They do try to make exploration and going after quest objectives a little more engaging by having the system where you can send a scout and you can kind of pull that up on your map, and there's this big area that you can send your scouts in to unearth the objective marker by using the hints on the objectives to know where on the map you use that big area scout system, almost like as a radar. And I'll be honest with you, that didn't really enhance the sense of exploration. It doesn't feel like there's much of a challenge to it or sense of like critical thinking involved. The clues are so obvious. And
Do you remember what I was saying before about how features get added into video games as a result? Like, this is the video game equivalent of government bureaucracy. Nobody asked, nobody wanted this, nobody needed this, it's not necessary, and it doesn't improve any aspect of the core gameplay at all. It just is this feature that's now added into the game. Like, I really think that, and you think about this game, right? I mean, this is a $100 million plus game. This is a 9-figure game. What is going on? What is this? Do people know, like, I think that being, and this is true, like, how many of you guys have done something creative, like editing or writing or something like that? I've always viewed that true expertise isn't knowing where to begin, it's knowing when to stop. And I feel like these people just keep adding in functionalities that nobody needs this. No, this is too much. Time and time again, the devs creating systems like this clearly expose that they don't play their own games. Well, it doesn't matter. It's totally fucking irrelevant. Nobody cares about this. Why are you even doing this?
Adding system is like so powerful that it just feels like it's just additional button presses to then just end up following a quest marker after essentially some very easy investigation. Now, I didn't get to mess around with side quests all that much. There was one I stumbled upon where there's this orphan girl who was asking me for help, but I wasn't able to do that side quest before my time ran out. So I don't know what the quality of the side quests will be, whether they'll
it's going to be
feel kind
great.
of really cheap and very kind of thrown together, or whether all of the side quests feel like they have.
This is going to be a very nuanced opinion. I think that a lot of AAA video games have the best content inside of their side quests. And I think that the reason why that happens is because the side quests are not designed by committee the same way that the main quest line is. And it's given to one individual writer in order to create a cohesive, comprehensive story that in a lot of cases is good. I think that these games create bad main stories and bad narratives and plots, and they do so by a matter of their approach. And you see this with World of Warcraft. You see it with, in my opinion, a lot of gacha games as well. And I'm trying to think if there's any other examples that just come right off the top of my head. With Dragon Age the Veilguard. So the main storyline of Dragon Age Veilguard is garbage. But some of the quest lines for the individual companions are, I would say, even above average. So, yeah, I mean, I liked Emmerich. I did too. I thought it was a really good story. What about Dragon's Dogma? I don't know. I mean, that could be an exception. I'm not really sure. But either way, my point is that I think that's the reason why the side quests are better. And I think that also that reality, because like I'm not the only person who's experienced this, right? Am I the only person who's observed this phenomenon that the side quests are oftentimes better told than the main quests? No, I'm not, right? I'm not. And so I think that what that tells you is that, number one, it's probably being designed by committee. And number two, that there are good writers that work at these companies, but they're being suffocated by bureaucracy. That's what I think's happening. And I think that the quality of these side quests are the perfect example of that.
Substantially
But
written
we're going to have to find
arcs,
out.
where every side quest feels like it has a place in the world and like it was handcrafted, instead of just littering the world with really menial feeling tasks that don't make for compelling side quests. That's a trap that a lot of Ubisoft open world games tend to fall into. I don't know how the sense of exploration will feel like in this game, whether it's going to be the same affair of just like following a bunch of map markers based on what the UB towers reveal. And yes, the UB towers are back. You will be going to the peaks of certain architectures to reveal parts of the map and the activities that lay there. The map itself is also just massive from what I could see, and I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. I prefer density over volume, quality over quantity. I just hope that the open world actually feels...
It's not one or the other. It really just depends, right? You can have a game like The Witcher 3 that I feel like has that, and you can have the opposite like Starfield, right?
fun
Elden
to
Ring,
explore, and like the activities within them.
I think Elden Ring is a great example of a game where not every single area has a purpose, but sometimes it just creates a really good scene, and it looks really cool, and it just adds to the environment and the world. And I think that, and Dragon's Dogma 2 has a number of examples of this as well. And so I think that this is something that a great game designer will know how to calibrate, and a bad game designer will not. And there is no right option. There's just the right people to execute options that could work.
Don't feel as menial as they've been in the past, but I don't know. It just feels like every time I hope for that, Assassin's Creed tends to disappoint in that area. And Ubisoft open world games in general tend to disappoint in that area. So while usually I'd be excited for a world that's bigger, when it comes to Ubisoft, that actually worries me more, because it feels like...
I will say that visually this game looks really nice, and I appreciate the visuals a lot. I look forward to playing it on a 5090.
Going to just be stretched thin, this map that won't have enough substance to back the size of it. Though I hope I'm wrong. At the very least, though, the open world does look fairly beautiful. I do think the environmental design, the vegetation and terrain, the architectures, and all of that does look pretty. When the wind blows...
Do you want to hear another game that looked really good? New World.
You can see the foliage just kind of swaying about as you ride your horse through Japan, and all of that does look very pretty, so it's nice to just kind of take the environment in. But I just hope that there's actually stuff to do in the environment that isn't boring, and that all feels kind of interesting and has some sense of intrigue, and it feels like you want to actually partake in them instead of it feeling like a chore. I also need more time to feel out the progression system of this game. It's kind of how, you know, recent Assassin's Creed games have worked, where you level up or you gain essentially like skill points or perk points, whatever you want to call them, and invest them in skills. Both characters have their own skill trees, as they all have their different weapon sets, both ranged and melee. And a lot of these perks do seem to offer substantial additions to combat, especially where those active skills are concerned. And then there's the equipment system, where it feels like each piece of armor does offer like substantial perks that shape.
Those are cool. Credit where credit's due. This armor set does actually seem like it changes gameplay. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
The play style of your respective two characters, of your protagonists. I just hope that the armor pieces are more about quality versus quantity, where it doesn't feel like you're looting a bunch of stuff and then picking from them, where it's not about finding the epic or legendary versions of the same stuff, but rather finding unique pieces that each offer their own effects, and deciding which one to equip is a matter of play style and the perks they offer, rather than these incremental statistical updates where you'll barely feel the difference. But yeah, the game definitely does try.
Yeah, it's always better to just give people functional differences rather than like numerical advantages. I think that's what makes it more interesting, at least. Didn't Wukong have a similar system? It does. Yeah, it does. And I feel like, again, the problem is that, and this is just an issue, like, am I getting old? Because, like, I just feel like every video game follows these same formulas. And Wukong's upgrade system was, like, much more diverse. Like, you could go, for example, into upgrading your transformations. You could upgrade your basic combat attacks. You could upgrade your basic stats. Like Kazan, the first Berserker, is more similar to that, too. And I just feel like we see so many versions of this that are like the same. And I don't know. It's all Unreal Engine? No, I don't even think this is, I don't even know if this is made by Unreal Engine. I don't know the answer to that. But I don't think so. The point is that I don't think that's the issue. This is a design decision. And it's like, I think what really kind of took me out, like what was like the wake up call for me with this was I played Metaphor ReFantasio, and the entire game felt like an immersive, transformative experience. And I feel like a lot of video games now, there are so many things that have become uniform that playing one of these games is like playing all of them. And it's exhausting to a certain degree.
How to present scenarios where each character is viable, but one might be better suited for. Like, you can still use Naoe in combat-heavy scenarios. You might just struggle a little more compared to Yasuke, who was built to bulldoze through combat. And then for stuff that requires a bit more finesse, a bit more stealth, where it's easier to go through the rooftops to reach an objective or to steal something.
Can we just look at this combat? Like, just watch the combat.
Where it's easier to go through the rooftops to reach an objective or to steal something or to assassinate someone. Now it might just allow...
That's... You're Jade. That's Assassin's... It's... I think this is... There's no excuse for this. Chinese gacha games blow this out of the water. How is this happening?
For a more expedient way to do that, but ultimately it does feel like both characters are viable in whatever scenario you're thrown into, as long as you're willing to go through the hurdles of picking a character who's maybe less suited for the mission type. It's also worth noting that outside of missions, when you're out and about in the open world, you can switch characters anytime super easily from the menu, so you're able to switch play styles basically at almost any time, and at key junctures in missions, you'll be able to pick which character you want to play as. But yeah, I mean, so far it feels like the bottom...
Combat's never been Assassin's Creed strong side? Well, why not just make it better? Just make it better. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't get it.
Bottom line is, if you like modern Assassin's Creed, this is just more of that with some refinements, the combat and the parkour system and stealth. I think the moment-to-moment gameplay already does feel better than the previous entry, Valhalla. But moment-to-moment gameplay is one thing, and then there's like what's around the moment-to-moment gameplay, the activities that you partake in, the level design, just the pacing and flow of the open world and the main campaign, all of those things that I've still yet to see how that will pan out in the final game. But I don't know. Part of me feels like this is going to be yet another scenario of like the game just being too big for its own good. There's such a thing as less is more, and that's a lesson that I think Ubisoft just doesn't seem to want to learn, and that's something that's afflicted a lot of, I think, Assassin's Creed games. The formula still feels similar enough to previous modern Assassin's Creed games where I'm not entirely sure that by the time I actually play the full game, this is going to convince me that the Assassin's Creed formula has, you know, really tried to evolve and really get more creative. Aside from some tense combat and stealth scenarios, I don't think this is going to be the game that will convert you to this style of Assassin's Creed if it's something that you haven't enjoyed. The setting is cool and well realized, but the story and the characters and the scenarios not hooking me means that if the activities do end up being a chore...
Tencent's got to buy them out, man. They gotta sort this out. They gotta get something needs to change. Like, by the way, like, I don't care if the old Assassin's Creed games didn't play this well. I don't give a fuck. If you have Chinese gacha games coming out that blow you out of the fucking water, you got to adapt to the market. The fact is that now, like, you have so many games that are coming out that have insanely great combat. This is pathetic. It's not 2017 anymore. It's just fucking embarrassing. Like, really, I don't even know how we even talking about this. Wukong is 100 times better than this? Yeah. Like, Wukong, Kazan the First Berserker. What was that bullshit Vindictus game? All of these games, the combat is, like, infinitely fucking better. Even Wulong, the fucking Ninja Gaiden remake is better than this. Ghost of Tsushima. Yes, I've only seen gameplay, but I think that from the gameplay I've seen is better. Kazan looks so good. Yes, it does. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Yes. Like, how many games have worse combat than this? That's a better question. Can we think of any? Outlaws. Great. You've got the gold standard, and that's the brown standard.
And a bore, then this is going to be a tough game to get through. So I really hope that narratively and in terms of how compelling the characters are, all of that picks up very quickly in the final game. So yeah, that's all I have to say based on the 4 hours that I've played. I do want to finish the game before I share my final thoughts, but I'm not convinced that this will be able to live up to or surpass the likes of Ghost of Tsushima, which for me kind of became the new Assassin's Creed. Just feel a little smoother and a little more versatile, and like you're more in control. But who knows? Maybe I'll come to appreciate Assassin's Creed Shadows if I play more of it. But my experience with Ubisoft's last few releases just has me apprehensive. But at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Assassin's Creed Shadows based on everything you've seen. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
Man. 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 I don't know if I can still say it's going to be a 7 or an 8. Like, you have Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time come out. Or the new one, Lost Crown come out. Blew this completely out of the water. Different style, of course, obviously, but it's just way better. Like, every mediocre Unreal 5 engine Souls-like cash grab is better than this. No, it's not? Okay. All right. All right, we're going to find out. Oh, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. Look. People might not believe it. I'm going to link you guys a video. Give it a like. Yeah, compare Ghost of Tsushima to this. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it before the Ghost of Yotok comes out, so I'm ready for the next game. That's it. The question is, when we play it? Yeah, no, for sure. If for at least any other game would have one good element of something that people engage in, another Crab's Treasure is infinitely better. You play combat for you play for combat. Gameplay isn't Assassin's Creed. Why not? Why is it okay that the combat sucks dick? Who decided that? Who decided that Well, you know what? We're going to have this feature of the game and it's going to be bad. Why? Why would that be a good idea? It's a stealth game. Stealth games don't mean that you have bad combat. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I disagree. I think that's not true. It's old combat. This is dated and it's embarrassing. That's what I think. The combat system did not evolve from 2007. I would say that this is a 2016 game. And I feel like action combat has evolved in such a tremendous, massive way. And this just really isn't keeping up with it. It's just not. It's not better. It's the same. Stop giving the money. Hitman and Splinter Cell have good combat, enough stealth games. They need to remake the series? No, it's not the series is the problem. The people making the series and designing the game are the problem. Those are the ones who are the problem. The series is fine. The IP is good. It's the people that are making it that are the problem. So yeah, I don't know what to say, guys. I really don't.